Hello everyone, I'm Sergey and welcome to my daily overview from Ukraine. But all the news from Ukraine was overshadowed by one news that happened in Belgorod region. The deep state map showed that part of the Russian territory became a gray zone, which is not under the control of the Russian Federation. Of course, the Russian media immediately said that it was Ukrainian diversionists who invaded Russian territory. But it was the Russian Volunteer Corps, together with the Legion Freedom of Russia, decided to fight against the regime inside Russia. And they are primarily fighting for the free Russia, not representing the interest of Ukraine. Ukraine just gave them temporary protection because inside Russia they would have been imprisoned. Before I continue, I would like to ask you to press the like of this video and subscribe to my channel. I really need your support at the beginning of this channel to be more motivated to improve my skill and become better in each next video. Thanks a lot. So overnight the Legion Freedom of Russia recorded a video message and said that they are back in the homeland. In their speech to the Russians, they say that they are Russians just like others. And they want their children to live in peace. That they should be able to move freely around the world, to study wherever they want, and live in a happy and free country. But with Putin's regime, it's not possible. In a regime that's rotten with corruption and lies. They don't want to live in a dictatorial country, where they cannot say there should be no war. They said hello to Putin and said it's time for the Kremlin's dictatorship to end in Russia. I remind you that the Legion of Freedom of Russia fights on the side of Ukraine against the Russian occupants. And quite a lot of people have already joined its ranks. They moved to the Russian border checkpoint and conducted their special operation there. They cleaned up the border checkpoint and continued to take in several villages under their control, which is actually one big settlement. And this is the morning photo from the drone of the exact location on the border with Ukraine. There were also spotted helicopter shooting at ammunition depots. Russian authorities in Belgorod district gathered for emergency meeting, at which they discussed the consequences of an attack by diversionists. Meanwhile, an air raid alarm sounded on the streets of Belgorod region. And the radio also called for evacuation from Belgorod and the region. Since early morning in the city and region, there were large traffic jams on the way out of the city. Buses were also heading in the city of Belgorod to evacuate local residents. A large number of people really wanted to evacuate. And people who remained in the city couldn't get into the bomb shelter, or at least basements of houses, expressing their indignation and dissatisfaction of the local authorities. Meanwhile, in the city of Moscow, a big flag with balloons of blue and white was launched into the sky, which showed that the Legion of Freedom of Russia is not only in the border villages, but also in the capital of the Russian Federation. Well, once again, the Russian media is saying that it was done by Ukrainian diversionists who invaded Russian territory. But this is very stupid accusation. Ukraine has its own personal territories that need to be cleared of the invaders. And it makes no strategic sense to conduct attack on Russian territory. As we can see, there are people in Russia who are willing to fight the regime. I'm convinced that inside Russia there are also quite a lot of people who want to live like in the past, without sanctions, without unfriendly attitudes to Russians, in a free and friendly Russia. But I think the Russian army will be able to push them back into Ukrainian territory. Otherwise, Russia as a country could very quickly collapse. And people who are against the current regime in Russia will be able to speak out more bravely against the war and against Putin's regime. Okay, let's see how things develop further and what will be further action of the Legion of Freedom in Russia. Thanks for watching. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below and subscribe to not miss next updates. Have a great day. Bye-bye.